welcome to another Marketing Corner Conversation show here on Amazon and also on Facebook. Let me see which channels I'm in live. So I'm live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Periscope, on Twitch, and on Amazon Live. So welcome everybody today. It's another very special show because I will have here again my amazing friend Vincent Lanci to talk about his amazing story of life. But before that, just let talk a little bit. Let me know how is doing your week. Uh, where are you located, by the way? Let me know where are you located. Where are you watching the show? Because we are broadcasting to so many places. Let me know where you are. Don't forget, please, to follow. Let me see if I found. Okay, there you go. Don't forget to follow. Okay, you can take a look at Vincent books and also podcast. I put it in the carousel here on Amazon. So if you're not watching me on Amazon, please join me. Just type in the web browser marketing.live and you will join us on Amazon Live. It will be more funny. It will be more interesting to join me there because you can, for instance, you can pick both of the podcasts from Vincent, which I truly recommend because, for instance, in one of them, I was his guest to his show, and I love the experience. So join us. Feel free to engage, to put some questions, to put some doubts. Don't forget as well to follow me, please, and to unmute, okay? Because otherwise you won't be able to listen the amazing things we are saying here, okay? So please unmute. Okay, so today it's I'm very happy to have here again Vincent. He's an amazing guy. He has an amazing story to share. Maybe, and just maybe, due to the things that happened to Vincent's life, he could become a bitter man and a hangry man, but hopefully he turned in an amazing guy, in a generous guy who shares inspiration with others, who shares inspiration with young boys, not so young boys, and also he writes amazing books. So let me see if he's in the basement waiting to join the show. Okay, let me do this. Hello, Vincent. How are
Good
you?
morning, Marco. How are you?
I'm very good. So happy to have you here again. I think I don't know how many times you already were on my show. But
4 or 5 now. It's been a
yeah,
few.
yeah. I think we made two solo shows with this one, and also you were in a couple of other with Tony and the mentoring crew. So thank you so much for being here again, Vincent. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here on my show. I will ask, please, for you to introduce yourself. Is that okay? Do you think you can do it?
Thank you for having me again, Marco. I'm so happy to be back. For those of you who have not seen me on this show yet, I was born in New York, played sports, and traded in the snow for palm trees in 2009. Went to University of Tampa, and then my senior year, I was hit by a car, woke up about a week later out of a coma. Then the doubts shifted to I may never walk or talk or go to the bathroom on my own again. But here we are. Good things happen with hard work. He mentioned some of the books. My latest book is Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health. Very proud of that book. And shout out to Chris Bridge, my amazing illustrator, Dr. Denise, who connected us. I'm very proud of that book. Also host a mental health podcast called The Mental Health Break, as well as that entrepreneur show, which Marco was a guest on.
Thank you so much, and I have so much fun. Well, Vincent, I have to ask you this because you have that accident in your life, and it was actually an accident who changed your life. I think by now, looking back, and I think by on that time you had your dreams, your plans, your ideas for your future. Did it change uh, so much? the things you planned and the actual life you have now, and it changed for best or for worse?
It changed for better, I think. Interesting at first. No one likes change. You want what you want in life, but things happen, unfortunately. I eventually got a finance job with pretty good pay with the corner off, like, something I always wanted, and I just wasn't happy. So that really made me go write my first book a little more intensely. I had been writing it for a few years, but I wasn't all in. And then eventually I went all in, probably 27 years old, 26 years old was when I said, no more real estate full time or financial advising or all these other things. It's let's build this. And that's 7 years about now later, where I like the work I'm putting out. I like the opportunities to do shows like this. They're fun to do. And I think I'm adding more value to the world than I was in my finance role.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk. Maybe to start with the first book, Left for Dead.
Left for Dead, right here. This is what it looks
Okay,
like right behind me.
let me highlight it in the carousel. So, how does the idea came up? How do you plan the book? How do you write it? Tell me. We want to know everything about it.
Well, once I spoke at graduation, I wanted to continue speaking, and this was a way to build my brand. One of my earliest mentors, Lee, we sat down, started putting some thoughts together to really get the ball rolling. And I had a lot of trouble with it. My first editor ghosted me after a year of me waiting around for some updates. I finally got my manuscript back that was graded like a term paper because she was a professor at a university where it just didn't read like a book. So I had to revamp it. So special thank you to Ray out there. We got the book in a way I felt comfortable putting it out finally. It is an autobiography in the sense where I introduce you to my character from birth, and then it leads up until the hospital where my mother had a journal written with all the things that I said and did for the first 2 weeks, which can relate to anyone who's been through a traumatic experience or had some family in the hospital. And then the second book I wrote was an ebook to help people in the pandemic. And it was just piggybacking off this book, though. Those of you who met me in this book, learned my story. I wanted to give something back again to people who weren't entrepreneurs and been in the house by themselves all day to work remote a little more effectively and efficiently.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing here the first the first phrase here. Life is about choices, and this is very powerful. Those you can make, and others you cannot. What do you have to say about this? Because it's truly important because we see every day so many things. Oh, I should do this. I should do that. Oh, this guy, he has an amazing life, and I would love to have his life or her life as well. And somehow we can't because and sometimes we forget our lives, we forget our choices because we are looking to other lives, to other choices. What do you have to say about this, Vincent?
Well, after I went through this experience, it really exemplified that statement where I have to take each decision a little more carefully because something that I didn't do, especially by a man that I've never met, affected my life forever now. And that's a decision I didn't make. I didn't get in the car with a drunk driver. I got in the car with nobody. I walked home. And even by doing that, I almost had a death sentence in a way. So it changed the perspective of a lot of things, Marco.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have to maybe a tough question to do to you. Did you know? Did you know who the guy was, and how do you feel about him?
I did not know him at the time, and I don't have much ill feeling towards it at this point. It's been some years that have passed, and if I dwell on it, it won't do me much good. And as much as I wish it didn't happen, there is some good that came out of it. I'm helping a lot of people's lives now through the work I do. And a lot of it is just beginning still. We're just still working on the mental health book that came out in October due to the pandemic. I want to be more in schools, and that's not possible until kids are in school full time. So right now we're really focusing on businesses and a special collaboration with Day One Bags. Shout out to Hunter in Texas, where we were able to distribute a lot of copies of the book to foster children throughout the state of Texas.
Absolutely. Well, we have someone here. Hello, and hello, hello, Maria. Let me. And she say that's a powerful title. There, definitely a curiosity catcher. Yes, absolutely. And I think it's a good option. Maybe because sometimes we think too much about little things, which most of them don't mean nothing. They don't cause you any harm, but we look at them, oh my god, my life, whatever. And I think with this book you can put, I think perspective, it's always a good thing. Well, Maria is asking, is that title based on a real life experience, Vincent?
Yes, this is based off what changed my life. Walking home one evening and then waking up about a week later out of a coma at Tampa General Hospital. Um, Very grateful for everything they've done for me there, and I'm still a part of the TGH family. I've had the great opportunity to travel to Tallahassee, Florida. It's our state capital, to advocate on causes dear to my heart with Tampa General. I've had great times with traumatic brain injury support groups, connecting with individuals, and I'm still in contact with fellow traumatic brain injury survivors I've met through TGH, which I'm very grateful for. Chris Williams is one here in Tampa. We go to Wing House for lunch every so often.
Really good. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Your name sounds a little bit Latin. Do you have any Latin roots? Let me know, Maria, because I'm Portuguese. And Vincent, your Lanci name, it sounds a little bit Italian.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we are a big family. Perfect. So, Vincent, you also have this book. Can you talk a little bit deeper about what? Oh, I'm Dominican Republic. Okay, perfect. Estamos en familia. Perfect. Can you talk, because this your last book about mental health came out in a so uh, challenging time,
Mhm.
and I'm I'm almost sure that when you first thought about writing this book, you were not aware of everything that may come up after you publish it, after the launching. So can you tell how you were thinking at the beginning and what came after this?
Well, I wanted to put the book out a week before the US election because of the significance of that election. There was a lot going on, and a mental health tool could only help in that time. But the main goal for it was to be involved with more middle school and high schools with the book, young adults. And now it's really transformed a bit to adults. It's been for adults because although it can be read by middle schoolers, there is parts in the book for adults where it talks about children in their lives going through the symptoms and adversities in that chapter. And I mentioned the collaboration with Hunter. That's one reason I'm able to still be involved with students, because I felt a lot of resistance when trying to book school engagements, whether it's budget restraints or just a lot going on. But I was still able to connect with students with the foster care work that he does out in Texas. Again, his company is Day One Bags. Check out his company. He's doing a lot of great stuff. You know Hunter, Marco. He's a great
Absolutely.
individual, and I look forward to the next work I do with him.
Perfect, perfect. And I'm still waiting for him to join me in a show. I think he doesn't want to. And well, Vincent, we have to talk about this because there's I don't know properly the saying, and I think it's kind of, I don't know if, because quotes are sometimes it's very hard to find the real the author, but it's kind of, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go farther, go with others. And as I do, you are also a networker, a person who believes that working together, it's the right way to work.
Mhm.
And for instance, you have the entrepreneur show. When you first thought about it, you thought about bringing guests, or you thought, okay, let me do this all by myself and let's see what happens?
I thought about building the brand up a little more. I was right after the first book came out. That was Left 4 Dead came out. I wanted to do something next, continue to brand. I wanted to just keep finding ways to work for myself and produce work that I'm passionate about. So that's where that came from. I did not anticipate it going 9 seasons that we're on right now. Very grateful for all the listeners and guests that come on. Although I've never done much marketing, and I know the significance. I do what I can on a solopreneur's budget. I feel with marketing on any of the things that I do, they can become maybe a lot more popular, I could say. It is international because I've interviewed in maybe 16 countries, overall between the two shows, and it is growing. But the goal with that show is to inspire people who want to start their own business or those who do run their own business, get firsthand experience from each guest. It would probably be more popular if I had more business overall because most people are not entrepreneurs, but I'm not worried about going for certain accolades. I'm doing the mission of my brand and entrepreneurship and mental health. And that's what the Mental Health Podcast does too. I've got to connect with so many wonderful people all around the world who share their vulnerable moments on my show to help others battling through the challenging and difficult times.
Great, great. And how do you find guests to these shows? Because it's always, I think, um, sometimes we think, okay, I don't think this, and I think you don't think about this as well, because somehow we are a little crazy and we don't overthink things. And we just invite people, and that's how it is. But how do you which criteria do you have to choose the guests? Do you make kind of, okay, I need to bring people from other countries? Because, for instance, I had my first person from Africa. I think it was 2 3 months ago, and I was willing because I would love to bring more perspectives, more ideas, different mindsets. And I loved having this, and it was a very young lady, and I love the experience. Do you have in mind this as well? Because sometimes we like to bring big names. We think about big names, and we because there's also this thing, we should focus, yeah, whatever, focus, and somehow our heads, our mindset becomes, okay, I just need to have people from business from this area. How do you manage this process?
I can certainly explain the evolution of me finding guests because now I have people that email me to be on the shows, which helps a great deal when there's so much else going on in the world. But once I hit 100 episodes, a goal of mine became to interview in all 50 states here in America, as well as to continue to interview internationally. And you can't do that unless you network. Shout out to Tony Alexander. Your network is your net worth. He says that all the time, and it's true. I have a YouTube presentation that I delivered at PodFest maybe 4 or 5 months ago, 2 PodFests ago. And I talk about the 4 types of networking that I use to grow my shows. And I'll do them quickly here. 1, strategic searches. Go online, go on Google. When I came out of mental health break, I Googled top mental health influencers in the country. I reached out to 10, 20, 30, 40 of them. My retention rate wasn't the best, but I heard back from 5 or 6. That included the worldwide and Dalai Lama speaker, Dr. Denise, Dr. Anita Sands, who endorsed my book, Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health, Dr. Lulu. These are world-famous doctors, and I took them just by taking a chance. When I was at my life insurance internship, things that weren't mine, I was very scared of failure, scared of rejection, because there's a different type of pressure on you in a corporate environment to keep your job. I wasn't thinking freely. Now I've learned that someone not answering or no is just more practice for the next person. So take some chances with strategic searches. The next one's got to be tap in your network. Reach out to your friends. Reach out to people you know who are in states that you want to interview. The people are usually happy to help. They may not be in the position to buy something, even if they want to, but they're always happy to help. Social media, leverage that. Go to accounts in the comments section. See what people are commenting in relevant accounts. Use your hashtags. Those are just some ways that when you're on the ground and you have no guests, you have to get scrappy, network a bit, ask each guest on your show, hey, do you know anybody else who might be a good fit? That doesn't mean that you're signing a contract. You have to bring on that person, but they may know somebody else who's an even better fit. And now that's what's good for me between the entrepreneurship and mental health. I usually find some common ground, or now I've launched the 2 YouTube shows where Marco will be a guest. I have a limited series called Vin's Story Share, because we all have a story and we can help each other if we share, again, our vulnerable moments. That's on my YouTube channel. And then I also have Writing with Authors, which has taken off and been a very big success as far as people's feedback, which is very important to me. And that's also on my YouTube.
Perfect. Let me screen share your podcast. Let's see what we have here.
Well, entrepreneur show, yes.
Let's talk a little bit about this.
Which one? That one?
Because because
shout out to the Steamroller. He is a Long Island guy near my hometown. We never hung out growing up, but we connected because he also came down here to Tampa, Florida. I had reached out to him, and we tried to make this interview work for quite some time, actually. And due to both conflicting schedules, we finally had a chance to make it happen, and we ended off last season with him as the finale.
Amazing.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to scroll down, and if you want to talk about...
Yeah, we can stop. I can do a quick bit on a bunch. This week's Michelle Mazer. She's great. I reached out to her. She's in Washington. It was a state I had not interviewed. She runs something called the 3-Word Rebellion, where the 3 words you need to pitch yourself and actually get your ideas sold. Very, very inspirational episode. James Mulvaney started season 9 across the pond. He has 3 companies in the podcast realm that started close to 10 years ago. He was at the beginning of the podcast rush. So he's got incredible learning lessons. I mean, unbelievable episodes, Marco.
Mm-hmm. And we have here, let's see this
I know that guy.
Man.
Yeah, for those of you who have not seen Tony on this platform, definitely tune into his next one. He's filled with golden nuggets that can help you thrive. He does a lot in human resources and the mentor world as well. Veteran. Great guy.
And he's your mentor as well, right?
Absolutely. Mentor turned friend. He was introduced to me by my cousin Kim out in Louisiana. She knew Tony, knew we had some common ground, introduced us, and then from there, we've done quite a few collaborations together. And he also is an expert in Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health. I have to give him a shout out here.
Yeah, let me put you.
He talks about practicing yoga, meditation, and spirituality. Here's what I talk about before the chapter. And then when we dive in, we have our good
friend. There you go, Tony in the house.
He has great advice to offer here. Great chapter. And each chapter has an activity in this book to make learning fun, help you connect to your childhood again. And his chapter has a great activity called What Can We Learn? And he helps you really dig into your inner self. I highly recommend his exercise in here. Perfect. Thank you, Tony, for all your contributions.
Perfect. Let's see what else we have here. Let me know if you want. Oh,
they're all great. Brian Kornfeld with Synergy here in Tampa. He's created an entrepreneurial ecosystem for startups that's grown quite big. The last summit they threw was virtual because of COVID. They had Jerry Rice, Steve Young on there, NFL legends, real great. And then Kaylee Chu was a real fun interview. She had crippling shyness at her corporate job, and then she froze on a question in front of her boss. And it was really embarrassing as she describes it. So she created a life change and an initiative called 100 Strangers, where she sits down and has lunch with 100 strangers. This led to a book. She's incredible. Out in Australia, born in Hong Kong.
Well, I think you we need to talk a little bit about this guest. Maybe I want to borrow.
All of these guests are great people, and they offer so much in their episodes. They're all a must listen to, not just because it's my platform, but because of what they do to give back to anyone's business endeavors. It's not just for the entrepreneur. If you're running a business, if you're in a business, whether it's a business builder or a 9-to-5, the tools that they provide you with can help pay major dividends.
Oh, look.
Oh, there's
It's
that
me.
guy. Marco, how it hit the go
What?
live button how can make money right now? We're doing it. We're on go live right
Absolutely.
now.
Absolutely. And one thing I've seen here, Vincent, and I think it's very important by these days. It's bringing diversity. I see people from many races. I see men's and ladies there, and I think it's really important to embrace this diversity. And because there's two important sides on this, I think. Um, the first one is to bring diversity. This I've mentioned before, bringing different perspectives, different mindsets, ideas, thoughts, and everything. And the other thing, we should think as somehow broadcasters, as people with their own channel, is to give the opportunity to others to step out, to show them and everything. Your thoughts on this? Because I think it's sometimes we say, "Oh yes, we like diversity and war, blah 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 blah," but it's just a pointless hashtag somewhere, and also there's no follow up. And I think it's important. Your thoughts on this, Vincent?
I wouldn't say that I pick guests particular on any race or gender. I just am aware that any story can help someone through their journey. Sometimes they connect and they resonate based on it being a female guest and they're a female. Sometimes they resonate based on they're from Portugal. Sometimes they resonate based on that they're in the same industry. Sometimes they went to the same college. And that little bit of positivity being that they can relate to it might help push the listeners over the hump of whatever rut they're in to propel them forward. Each guest has such a unique story. No guest in the show is the same. Even if the guest comes back for a Rewind the Clock episode down the road, they're already talking about new things because I'm bringing them back because they have more accomplishments. So I'm very mindful that anyone can change anyone's day. So if I provide as many different perspectives as possible, which it was in one of my intros over time as it's evolved on the show, where my goal of the show is to provide different industries because everybody does something different, to provide different people from all walks of life because people are from all over the world. I've connected with you in Portugal. I'm here in Tampa, Florida, a few miles away.
Just a few. Let me bring also the other podcast to the screen, and let's talk a little bit about it because it's kind of a spin-off from your book, right?
Well, like I said, the mental health one, after Left 4 Dead came out, it was let's make as much noise in the mental health space as possible. And by that, I mean I want to connect with as many people as I can, not just on my show, but just to have a conversation with conversations where pushes us forward. And that was the inspiration behind Vin's Story Share on YouTube.
Amazing. Already 84 episodes. Oh my God.
The other one's got a bit more. This one, and my thing is, if I wasn't a solopreneur, I've tried interns a few times, but there's accountability issues on each part after I had already invested so many hours in. So I just took it upon myself to work a little harder. I'd love to deliver more bonus episodes of things behind the scenes of everything I do, and it will come. But right now, I'm focused on being consistent with producing every Tuesday on this platform, Wednesday on the other. I have not missed 1 week since I've started, and it's been very humbling and it's grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to meet all these people.
Absolutely. It sounds amazing. Do you notice the increasing of people following your podcast in these particular times?
Well, it's interesting. The entrepreneurship podcast started out very, very fast, and the mental health did not. And then over the last 6 or 7 months, it's kind of swapped listens as far as per week. They all get up there in listens as time goes back because I find that each week I get just as many plays on previous episodes as a new episode, which is comforting. But I mean, I think with more marketing, more people would hear it and the numbers would be a lot higher because my reach is only so far. But again, I'm not too worried about how quickly I positively affect the whole world, but in time I will.
I see. I see. I
Mhm.
see. I see. Oops. I see. This.
All great episodes. Tune in. Tune in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let us know a little bit more about those visits you're doing to schools.
Well, right now, the collaboration I'm involved with is with the AMI Kids. They're an organization throughout Florida where they help children get back on their feet after some troubled past issues where they had a difficult time, a difficult run. AMI Kids helps them get back on their feet and thrive again. Shout out to Carlos here in AMI Kids Tampa and Lee for the introduction. It's been a lot of fun to interact with these students for their book club where we bring Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health. And I go once a week and we go through one chapter in the book and the activity. We do popcorn reading and then we go through the activity together. We react off each statement. After each paragraph or two is read, I stop and we interact together. What did we learn from that paragraph? Provide real life examples where each student provides so they can really understand it. I make a big point to not ever preach to students, not ever talk down to them. I was just in their shoes as a student, which led to all of this. So I just explained to them some things that can help them. And I think it's worked a great deal. I always check in with Carlos, ask how the students, if they're asking about it. And he always says they're excited to have me back. And they ask when I'm coming back. So it makes me feel good and that the work's starting to pay off.
One question, because there's this idea that usually young people doesn't read. Your experience on this?
I've heard both sides. I've tried to get my book into schools, and they've told me that students don't read as much as they used to buy them in bulk. And I think it's contingent just on the student. With the phones now and electronics and all everything evolving and YouTube, and there's a lot of alternatives to just simply reading. Now people do like audiobooks, which is one of my goals. Hopefully before the summer, get this audiobook out. It's going to be great because I regret before my grandmother had passed away, my first book came out. She was just starting to not be able to really read more than a sentence or two. And I always wanted to do the audiobook, and that book was just a bit lengthy. I didn't really have the funds to do it, and I just never thought of the audiobook. And now I know that other grandparents can find value in my books if they are available on audiobook, let alone people our age who do drive around and listen to books, drive around and listen to podcasts opposed to music now. So trying to adapt to the times. I'm doing the best I can to keep up with everything. But I've had social media of late take a little bit step back just to focus on more things like networking and speaking in front of more audiences.
Absolutely. Great, great. And by the way, those visits, have you ever met a young boy or young lady which already knew you and they say, "Oh, Vincent, I'm this celebrity feeling"? Did you have it?
No, one day maybe, but I'm not really ever interested in anything fame whatsoever. I like my life and I like the way it is. However, I want to just keep following my mission and speaking to not just students and hospital patients, which is my niche, but right now everybody needs help with their mental health. And I want to get in front of more businesses right now, share my book, share my story, and help them thrive again after this lockdown. Everybody was affected in different ways. And I want to do my part with my book and my story to help them.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. That's good. And can we talk a little bit about maybe podcasting, because you're also an experienced podcaster? Okay, so you have you had your story, right? Because it's and you start, and the good thing about this, because sometimes people face this. By the way, let's start by the beginning. Did you felt imposter syndrome before you started,
I
and
think
how did you
everybody has to.
overcome it?
Everybody has to. And then once you put it out, you keep going and going. And then fast forward now, the one show is on 128 and that one's on 84. The writing show is on 9 episodes and the other one's got a handful. I've been pumping out content. Even with COVID, I've done a couple of collaborations. If you go to my website after this episode, the desktop version is better than the mobile. So use the computer. A lot more content on there. And I think you'll be quite surprised because I provide learning lessons on there for people interested in podcasting.
So you overcome. what do you the first things you thought the where okay, let's see, I want to start a podcast. What should I have? Where do you went to learn more about podcasting? If you want to share some uh, experts you followed and you're tuned in to learn a little bit more about your podcasting journey.
I'll be honest with you, Marco, and I may have only shared this once or twice before. When I launched my podcast, I actually had never listened to one podcast episode in my life. Not one. Everything I do, I believe in learning from people, whether it's Zig Ziglars or Simon Sinek's or my personal business to always grow. But it's something I really wanted it to be tremendously unique. I didn't want it to be like anything else. And then over time, I realized that when I listen to more shows, I pick up things from different shows and pick up things from different people that can help grow. I'm a career student, and after my brain injury, I'm very organized, and I'm very systematic in certain things, which I attribute to, I wouldn't call it success, but just some early momentum with my business, where the systems I have in place, the talking points, because I put pressure on myself, I realized eventually I was probably sounding a little robotic, but I was more concerned about putting value out there, people hearing my content and enjoying it. So now I don't really do the talking points as structured and read out each question before. It's all natural transitions. And that's just evolution as a host, practicing through 250 episodes where now it's more relaxed. And there's a lot of content out there, so I'm not ever discouraged with any numbers or anything like that, because I don't have a marketing budget to put it out into the world any more than my own word of mouth and people joining my shows and resharing my platforms. So I know that it's only a matter of time before there's some real traction. I've been doing the work, and I'm a firm believer in there's no substitution for hard work. No matter what, a shortcut can only take you so far. Might take you a year, then it can backfire. So I really become religious in hard work and just persistence and commitment. Once I went all in, I mean, I gave up my social life years ago. I gave up a lot of things where family is most important, and building this brand, because without a 9 to 5, you don't have a company matching your 401k. It's just what you save for retirement. And I've been building this media company and all these things unintentionally, where down the road, I'd love to collaborate with someone and sell my company eventually. I'm on a motivated mission to do as much good as I can, where eventually, hopefully, some other people are hosting my podcast. When the budget does grow, I really want to grow this Left 4 Dead brand as big as the world, worldwide. And it just continues to start with networking, doing shows like this, and growing my own endeavors.
Perfect. Do you want to share some tips about podcasting? Because and I think that is one of the problems, mostly when, well, about creating content. Usually people think, okay, it's difficult, it's not for me. And again, for instance, it's not your case, but because you have a very good sounding voice. But for some people, the voice, because when we listen the voice, our own voice, it's awkward. End of story.
Yes.
Do you want to share any tips on how do you structure, how do you
Yeah.
make things?
Yeah. And this is, again, I got to refer you right to my YouTube channel after this episode. My latest Podfest interview, my case study I delivered, it will be uploaded within the week probably. I give you my 5 tips I learned from my first 200 episodes, and I'm going to give you a couple quickly. The first was, don't put too much pressure on yourself. I took a picture of a screenshot from my GarageBand. I edited an episode where there's a long break or something didn't sound right, and I would edit it, and it was just so much pressure I put on myself for no reason. Just put the content out there. It's there. No one's going to notice the things that you're stressing about. You know it because it exists. So just don't stress. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Again, another tip is got to be networking. You have to make time to network. I always networking, and it's helped grow to where I am now, which is only just the beginning. But I prioritize the wrong things, like the shiny object syndrome with Instagram. I may have gotten business off Instagram, but I've never been told that directly it was anything more than Instagram. So now I'm trying to build back up the YouTube channel, build back up the LinkedIn that I've neglected in bulk for so long. So that would be where it's at, because businesses are the ones that have money that your peers on social media, unless you're not for a business account. I don't do personal social media really, but for me, I've learned that getting into the right audience is key, and I've neglected some things unintentionally.
This is very important, and let's talk a little bit about that Podfest participation because
Uh-huh.
I had a couple of friends there. I think, let me see, I Chris Giles, Chris Stone, and Jim Fuse, and also Dakshin, because I think Dakshin will be my guest next week as well. How funny is this? Because at the end, for instance, when I started live streaming, I never thought I would become somehow someone who people may approach to talk about live streaming. And I think you when you started podcasting, you didn't have that in mind that one day people will ask advices about podcasting. How do you see this? How can I say collateral benefits?
I enjoy just connecting with people, Marco. So the opportunity comes up to connect people about how I do things. It's always great. And one of my coaching services has obviously expanded to podcasting because once I realized that I'm doing the digital editing myself and I'm doing the recording myself, someone may be interested in that. So I take great pride in the work I put out. I hold myself to a high degree. I don't think it's better than anybody else's work, but I hold myself to a pedigree where I want the work to be quality. I don't like wasting people's time. Where if they're giving me their time tuning into something I produce, I want to make sure there's some value there.
Absolutely. And the hard question. Because again, we have this kind of myth that we should have expensive gear to make
Mhm.
things work and to start for instance, yesterday I made a show and I talked a little bit about gear and I gave hopefully some useful tips, and somehow people think, okay, I need to have an expensive microphone, a complex audio editing tool. Your thoughts on this, Vincent? Is it true?
I find that my Apple white headphones produce great quality as long as they're not too old. They have great sound. The iPhones now are meant to be just as crazy as any computer. I have headset right here I use as I used to teach English online overseas. ESL. I needed a specific quality headphone. So this produces great noise. I use this. I got it on Amazon, maybe $30, $40. Nothing crazy on the solopreneur budget, but it had great ratings. I look at the reviews and I've had no complaints. I think it sounds pretty clean on my shows. You could check them out.
Perfect. And did you about editing? Do you because for me it's
Yeah, it's very tedious
how
and
do you do that?
it gets old, but I use GarageBand again on the solopreneur budget. It was I have to use the tools that I already have in front of me. I had the Mac computer. I didn't know how to use it. I'm not as big of a YouTube guy as speaking with somebody. And Apple customer service is probably one of the best. You call them and I explain, hey, I know nothing about GarageBand, nothing about iMovie. I've never needed to use them. And now my business has grown to where I need to start producing this content. Please walk me through the basics. And they sit you down and they teach you everything. And it's been, from now, it's very repetitive. I've done it actually over 200 times. So it's quite just tedious at this point. But until I bring someone on, my learning lesson with that is no one's really going to hold themselves accountable like you will. So if you want to create a dream, create a company that has value, you got to put in the legwork.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something that for me it's important, and sometimes it's a big problem when we start, when we, and even if we're not starting, I think
Mhm.
through life, which is asking, being humble, because okay, I don't know it. I need to ask someone to help me, and for some people, this is very problematic. Why
I,
should I? And the other thing, Vincent, that you mentioned, and for me, it's also really important, is to understand when we are starting, our outcomes are starting outcomes. We won't do pro things when we are starting. So what your thoughts on this? Because I think it's important to stress this. If you are starting, you will have starting outputs and ask people.
I think it really was at that turning point where I went all in, where I also went from being defensive and sensitive to comments to taking every single thing as constructive. You have to realize no matter how smart you are or think you are, you cannot possibly know everything. Sometimes book smarts is the best, sometimes experience is the best. You have to be willing to ask questions and network. Again, I found that many people are always willing to help you, and they may not be in the position to buy something, even if they want to again, but people will help you because if you're hungry to learn, people are going to want to help you because you feed off good energy, and collaborations, as we spoke about a few times on this show, are key. They help both your brands grow, and you always learn something in the time being. It's a necessity to ask questions and get yourself out there, because if you don't ask questions, you're holding yourself back, and then the joke's just on you.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's because, for instance, and I think you may have these questions as well because they are pretty common. Oh, don't you are afraid that people be there criticizing you and what others may think about it and what blah 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 and all this blah 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 blah. How do you answer to people which
Yeah.
ask, for instance, if someone criticizes you, if you don't, it's your content is not good enough? How do you answer to those questions?
Well, you have to eventually realize if someone's got time to be talking about what you're doing something right. And no matter what, someone's going to have an opinion, no matter what. It's just the way it is. Everybody has an opinion about everything. Everybody's always everybody's always an expert. The world we live in, people are always experts at things that I shouldn't say always. In my experiences, I've found that people are willing to speak as if they have experience or knowledge on it and really have no experience whatsoever, just because they want to express that feeling. And once you accept it like that, where you have to shoot for yourself, you have to please yourself and the goals you're trying to accomplish. Not everybody's your target market. If my friends, for example, don't like the way my podcast is run or sound, that's fine. They're entitled to an opinion, but they're not my target audience per se, and they're not signing my checks, and they're not helping me make a difference to children and students. Those are the crowds that I'm worried about, where in the mental health space, if they don't like my show, then I have an issue. In the entrepreneurship world, if founders of companies are coming on my show and I can't film my show, people aren't reaching out to be on my show, then I have an issue. But you have to realize that if you want to do something that's unorthodox, that's not the 9 to 5, people are going to criticize you. And there's many reasons where they don't want to admit it or not. I find in my personal experiences, people that have to go to work and go to the 9 to 5 life don't like the lifestyle that entrepreneurs live because of the false misconception of just working from home, doing whatever you want, when that's not the case. I work probably more than twice the hours I would at a 9 to 5 for sometimes no money. And I'm okay with that because big picture, delayed gratification of what I'm trying to accomplish is very large. And I know I'm one mental health book deal away from a full university that buys them from being life-changing money and doing so much good in the process. I know that there's so many things that are on the cusp and things that we don't even know yet. Always new opportunities have come arise because of networking. Something can always happen on networking. Someone's working on a project and you might be a perfect fit. That's the way I look at it. Keep the optimism going.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very difficult to get approaches from others if you're not showing up. I think it's one of the and I usually like to say this, and the best way to improve is by doing, because it's, oh, I'm not good enough. Well, you because I think you have this in mind as well.
Yeah.
It's looking a little bit back what you did, and okay, how can I improve this, right?
You always have to take everything, whether you look at it as a failure or not, as a learning lesson. And I've started to become more and more appreciative of each learning lesson, because if you don't fail or do it wrong, you're never going to do it better. You have to learn how to continue to evolve, as if you're not an entrepreneur, whatever you are. But for me, it's just continuing to evolve as an entrepreneur, where there's big things coming this year. It's just Gonna take a little more time.
Perfect. And other thing you mentioned, and for me it's really important because one of another misconception, well, maybe two, we have is first, there are so many people talking about this. There are so many people. For instance, you look at LinkedIn and you think there are so many people publishing content, which is not true because I think it's less than 5% of people on LinkedIn are creating content. This is one of the first misconception. The second one is I don't have anything else to say. But it's everything said. I won't bring any value. There are so many people talking about this. I couldn't make it different or better or whatever.
Yep.
Your thoughts on this?
Everybody has something to say, and everybody has a story. That was the momentum behind the fourth series I launched, Vince Story Share. It was originally supposed to be an Amazon live show like this, but for the life of me, I was just having so much trouble with it, even with great advice from Marco. But you have to just make it happen to know if you can make it happen. It's not that you can't, it's that you don't have the confidence to do it. People often say there's no opportunity, and you heard that a lot during the pandemic for sure. But if you look at my example, my books were an opportunity I created myself. Simply through networking was how I leveraged them. The podcast shows, that's something I did myself. The YouTube series, those are opportunities I created myself because if there's no opportunities, you have to create it. Now, fast forward, I have people emailing me to join my shows rather than me just having to reach out. That's a very humbling thing for me because that means that it's working a little bit. You're often blinded by the light and the noise by your inner circle because those are the opinions that you hear. Those are the people you're around. And when people you don't know from sometimes across the world are feeling your stuff, they're finding value in what you're offering, that's the momentum to keep going. And that wouldn't happen if you were scared to put it out. You would never have the opportunity to be on a show in Portugal if I didn't network with Tony in Houston, Texas, through my cousin in Louisiana. See, you have to be willing to work. And if you're not happy with your situation, you could start to write the new situation. And that just comes with thinking outside the box. I don't think I'm creative, but I'm a creator. I create with words as an author. I create with shows as an entrepreneur. And I encourage you just to take the chance because it could blow up behind your wildest dreams like both of my shows have on the podcast side.
Perfect. And you mentioned something that could be related to your content creator career and as well to your book, Talks Mental Health, which is which opinions we should listen to. Because it's so easy to make an opinion, to share an opinion, but and I have this, and I'm pretty sure that you have that as well, because when we make this step of putting ourselves in the spotlight somehow, we are exposed also to the opinion, to others' opinions, because it's part of the price you pay for, for standing out. But one thing I've learned, as you mentioned, and I think it's important to talk about this, is to understand which opinions we should listen and which we should not.
If you want to please everyone, this is the oldest quote in the book, be an ice cream man. No matter what, you're not going to be able to please anyone. And if you're so concerned with others' opinions, you have to stop right there and fix that issue, address that issue right there, because you'll never propel yourself forward. If you do something, again, outside the box, unorthodox, people are going to have an opinion on it. But even as far as the other side of things, where people give you positive opinions saying, oh, that's good. Oh, that's great. That is someone that may mean well. They want to give you a good piece of advice and good feedback, but they may not be qualified to. If you want to talk about live streaming advice and you ask me because I have some business acumen and I have some podcasts, I'm not the guy to ask for that. What I tell you, it may mean well and give you the advice I think would be best, but it could be the wrong advice. It could be horrible advice. It may lead you down the wrong path. And I don't do that intentional. I do that because I don't have the knowledge to do that. Again, networking, stepping outside your comfort zone. Marco would be the guy to go through for live stream advice like I did. I didn't have the time to dedicate to the whole new platform, but it will come. And Marco probably will be a great resource for me. I built a relationship with him where we help each other. You need to find people to help you grow in every aspect. If you want to grow as a public speaker, I'm not sure asking a car mechanic would be the correct fit. If you want
Who knows?
if you want to, that could be your best friend, that could be your husband. If you want to become a marketing analyst, I'm not sure that I would be the best person to ask for. I might give you the wrong advice. I might give you some correct advice, but I may not be able to give you the advice to thrive. And that's just something I've learned over time to really adapt in my experiences, where I'm going to be very strategic on who I ask for help in different scenarios. I have several mentors, and they each provide value in a different way and provide great friendship in a different way. If that can make sense to anyone listening on, really leverage your network and have them turn your weaknesses into more of a strength.
Absolutely. I think, for instance, I had some, because I'm very I'm very straight to the point. I'm very objective, and when people approach to me with this kind of advising, but I think it's important to have in mind, you have your choices, you're doing, it's you who are doing this, so be aware of these influences that may kind of take you away from your path and mislead you. So, and for instance, once uh, a friend of mine approaches me, well, Marco, I like the content of your shows, but you're too much fun. Maybe you should be a little bit more formal. Some said maybe you should wear a formal shirt, and I think, oh, but that's not Marco. That's
Right.
how I want to do things. And the other thing I like to say is, okay, do you think this would work? Yes, I think it will be a nice thing. Yes, do yourself. And then they, oops, okay. Because yes, I think we are not dull, we are not stupid,
Mhm.
and we do this because we have something in mind, we have our purpose there, and we
Mhm.
and I like to bring, and I think you do it as well. And that's, you mentioned at the beginning that when you started you didn't listen to a podcast in your life.
Mhm.
And this, okay, because sometimes we it's very easy to fall in this temptation to kind of copy someone you liked, and after all you will be a copy, a cheap copy of them, right?
Yeah. Well, you have to take risks as an entrepreneur, and one of my risks was that I wanted to be as unique as possible. Granted, if I listened to some shows prior to, it may have been better, it may have been worse, we don't know. I may have been too much like another show. But now some things I've adopted, some tips for everyone. I have some music over some of the audio in my audio podcast now, because those podcasts are not video. When I speak and ask the questions, I have an audio clip trying to change the show. I mentioned that I've changed the beginning a few times just to keep it fresh. I don't do it as structured. I do it more relaxed now. And as far as the dress code, I'm with you. My brand in finance was to dress with a button down and a tie. And when I had that job, I had that mentality. When I networked, I wanted to be perceived that way. But now my brand has evolved to mental health and entrepreneurship. And mental health, I dress the way that makes me feel comfortable. I like to look presentable. If I'm on a show with you, I'll wear a nicer shirt. But on my YouTube show, I wear T-shirts that are me. I have my Yankees shirts, my New York Yankees baseball, my Jets shirts. I'm not trying to be something I'm not. My story share, my writing with authors. I don't wear a suit and write. When I'm writing, I'm dressed comfortable, and that's how I portray it. So I appreciate that you do that, because you have a platform now that has grown. People want to know the real you. They don't want to know someone that's not authentic. But again, in certain atmospheres, I dress good, feel good. That's how it works for me. Wear the button down and go to an event. But sometimes that's not the mindset I'm in. When I'm writing for a long time as an author, I need to be comfortable. I need to be relaxed. I need to be in my zone. And I think you can resonate with that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And by the way, you mentioned Jets. Are you willing to buy Jets as well, like Gary V?
I the Jets. I grew up having Yankees season tickets. My mom is a Yankee fan. Me and my father actually have a rivalry in each sport in the New York opposites. Um, with the Jets, ever since I was a kid, me and my friend Daniel, my friend Alex, we used to go to Hofstra University where the Jets would practice. And back then we know where the dorms were, we get autographs and signatures and watch them practice. It was a big part of my childhood, the Yankees and Jets, more so than Knicks and Rangers. Coming to Florida, I had needed a Florida team, and usually they're all in the same division as the New Yorks, but the Miami Hurricanes has been my team, as University of Tampa does not have college football. A little trivia, they did in the past. They used to beat up on teams like the Hurricanes and Gators and things. But sports, very passionate about sports. Unfortunately, as an entrepreneur, you work more than you don't. And I don't have time for much sports that aren't my own teams. But part of being an entrepreneur is to create a life you want, and doing the legwork now. I think that I'll eventually have the resume, and COVID will pass. We'll have speaking gigs on the calendar much more frequently to pay my bills that way more often and have more time to relax then. But there's no foot off the gas until my goals are achieved.
Perfect. And well, we are almost about to finish, but I have to ask you this because I think it's for me. It's when people ask me about important things about creating content, about marketing, whatever. There's always the C word that comes to my mind, which is consistency. Your thoughts on this, Vincent?
Consistency, and you have to be persistent. I'm not preaching that. I am not someone special. I'm saying what works for me. Consistency, morning routine. I have had the opportunity to actually have some published work done on my morning routine. Catch that all on my website in the media section, where I talk about how consistent my mornings are. As an entrepreneur, my days are completely different, but my mornings are very, very structured every single day, where there's things I need to do before 9 to 5 normal focus days open up, where I need to be completely available to interview on my podcast, collaborate with you, do some work on their shows. And I am all in on my mission, where I try to open up my day as much as possible. I record all my things usually in the mornings when I'm most productive. I'm up every single day, or the 6 days a week besides my mental health day, 3 or 4 a.m. in the gym before 5 every day. And it gives me the energy and momentum to have this conversation, which is 9 a.m. my time. Today I was in the gym at 3:30 Eastern my time because I have a lot to get done. I'm getting ready to travel up to New York for the month of June for the beginning, spend time with family. I have a wedding with one of my college friends, Paige and Luke. So there's a lot going on in June, but I have just been grinding, Marco, as you know, recorded on all of my platforms right now through July. And this is something I'm very happy about, because I need to do more than just the podcast. I need to do more than just the books. I need to open up more doors, and I can't do that without time. So I have to grind a little harder right now. Already be up working for 6 hours by the time I'm finished with you. And I'm just very grateful to be here.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, we are almost finished, but before that, I want to ask you to leave us 3 advices to inspire others.
All right. Advice number 1. If you're not happy, stop right now. You don't want to end up when you're 40 years old in a job you hate, in a life you're not happy with. Stop right now. Don't be afraid of change. Change is supposed to be scary. We are in our custom ways of life. We have our routines. What's easy for us isn't always what's best for us. Don't get caught up because the money is good now. The money can be fine if you follow your passion. I cashed in on a finance job, which wasn't crazy 6 figures, but it was more money than I've ever had. I thought it was what I wanted, and I was so miserable, and I don't look back one day. Advice number 2, get outside your comfort zone in the way of trying new things. I am not comfortable speaking Spanish in conversations yet, and I've had to stop with my lessons because work is too overwhelming for myself the last few months. But I want to do more collaborations. I'll have one with Marco hopefully in the next month or 2, something small in Spanish. That will be great, because I want to leverage myself into schools, into places where Spanish is the prominent language. Here in Tampa, a lot of Spanish-speaking schools, and I don't want that to be a reason that I can't make a difference with students. And 3rd, exercise for your mental health. I say that because you'll realize if you start exercising and you don't, the benefits for your mental health are, in my opinion, more substantial than physical health. Physical health is what we see when people work out, but you think clearly and for me, it's life or death exercise. It doesn't mean work out, lift weights. It can. It can mean take a 15-minute walk. It can make do some core. It could go for a run. Do something that releases those endorphins, because I promise it paid such major dividends for me to where, I don't even have caffeine, if I have any, for the day until the afternoon. I only have coffee 2 days a week, and I don't have it until the afternoon on those days, because I've progressed out of that thanks to fitness.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Vincent. Where can people find you?
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity
the
to
podcast.
share this. Yes, thank you for the opportunity to be on your show as well, Marco. It's been great to connect with you. Start at vincentsalanci.com. You can find everything there, but from there, you'll find my 2 podcasts, That Entrepreneur Show, which is at That Entrepreneur Show, and A Mental Health Break at A Mental Health Break. My YouTube channel, I'm really trying to grow. I'm happy to connect with you and also follow your YouTube channel. I'd love to see what you're working with. I'm at Vincent A. Lanci on YouTube. Just type that in. And for everyone on this show who stuck around to the very end, I do my coaching on things that I can provide value with. You're on this call right now. I'll provide 2 free sessions with you, half hour or hour, whichever you feel. Podcast A to Z, starting from scratch, or networking, writing, writer's block, to writing a book and publishing, overcoming adversity, and entrepreneurship. Those are the 4 things I coach clients on, and I'm happy to connect with you. Please take me up on that free offer.
Perfect. Vincent, thank you so much for joining me again. It was a pleasure to
Thank you, Marco. Thank you. Yes.
to talk a little bit. Hopefully, we will do this
We will do
again. And who knows, soon it will be in Spanish.
It will. Adios, Marco.
Let me know if you need other people to help you in that journey.
Absolutely, Marco. Thank you so much, and thank you for everyone who tuned in. You will catch replays of this on my YouTube channel in a week or so. Catch it on Marco's live streams all the time. I look forward to watching your next live stream, Marco. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It will be tomorrow. So thank you, Vincent. Thank you for all of you who were watching the show. I will be back tomorrow. Don't forget, they are in the carousel. Those books and the 2 podcasts from Vincent, they are both of them in the carousel, so you can buy the books and subscribe to the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. GMT plus 1, which is, let me see, it's 12 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. I think about everybody. And have a good day. We will see tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you.